Alright everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about a significant severe weather sequence that's going to be taking place this week from Monday into Wednesday. So yeah, let's get started here. Looking at the SPC website here, let's kind of look into today. So today we have two areas of a 15% risk of, or a slight risk of severe weather, which is probability above 15%. The two areas we have are kind of in this northern Florida area, portions of Georgia, South Carolina, and into portions of the interior Northeast, including portions like Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey as well. Tornado risk wise, we have two areas of tornado risk, one for the northern slight and one for the southern slight. The northern slight has a small 5% tornado risk that encompasses places like northeastern PA and into northwestern New Jersey and extreme southern New York as well. Kind of that eastern slight, or kind of both of these slights are driven by damaging wind gusts, as you can see here. 15 wind, and then there's a couple small hail risks as well. Severe damaging wind gusts, isolated large hail, and a brief tornado or two are possible this afternoon across the northeast, and then across the southeast, a brief tornado, isolated severe hail, and isolated damaging wind gusts are also possible. Day 2, no severe weather is expected on day 2, none at all. Appreciable severe weather potential is not evident across the CONUS. On day 3, a significant severe weather episode is expected to start up. This will encompass portions of the marginal risk will encompass a good portion of Texas. Now, I do think this will get pushed to the west a lot given the new guidance, but it encompasses portions of Texas, kind of northern Texas there, Oklahoma, southwest Arkansas, kind of that eastern area in Louisiana there, right before you get into Mississippi. Slight risk, kind of in that with places like Alexandria, Shreveport, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, all on a slight. And then with an enhanced risk from Waco to just west of Alexandria. Tornadoes are expected, and some of which could be strong within that significant hatching region. We could also see very large hail and significant wind gusts within that hatched region as well. It's basically a 10% chance or greater of significant severe weather within a 25-mile point. Areas in the hatch region include Waco, College Station, Bryan, Huntsville, and Lufkin. Those are all Texas areas. There's also places in extreme western Louisiana that are in it as well. So it is likely a couple tornadoes could be strong overnight as well. Now, day 4. A very significant severe weather event is likely on day 4 with areas like southern Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, southeast Arkansas, and portions of kind of central Louisiana all in a 15%, and then there's a large 30% encompassing portions of northeast Louisiana and into portions of Mississippi, and a lot of Mississippi, western Alabama as well. So places in the 15% are Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, and Huntsville in Alabama. You also have Mobile, Alabama. You have Greenville, Mississippi, Alexandria, Louisiana, and Lafayette, Louisiana. Including your 30% risk region, we have Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Meridian, Mississippi, and Vicksburg, Mississippi. Day 5, there's another risk of severe weather. This stretches from areas just southwest of Columbia for near Atlanta, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, Dothan, Alabama, Tallahassee, Florida, Macon, Georgia, and Albany, Georgia. This includes 6.5 million people. The previous day included 9 million people, and this Texas risk day includes like 20 million people. So a lot are going to be at risk. Latest deterministic and deterministic, I don't know how to pronounce that. And ensemble runs of medium global models continue to depict a likelihood of combination of substantial severe weather across the central Gulf Coast states Tuesday into Wednesday. This includes a reasonable probability for a regional tornado outbreak centered over central and southern Mississippi Tuesday and northeastern Louisiana. There's going to be a potential for significant tornadoes with this as well, and there's a very high end parameter space as the SPC mentions right here where the substantial outbreak of supercells and then high-end parameter space is mentioned within this paragraph, I think. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's mentioned within the first paragraph. Yeah, high-end parameter space. Here is the HRRR12Z. We're going to kind of run through this. We'll kind of look at the trough. So here's the trough that's going to give off today's severe weather risk. It'll eject into portions of the northeast there. It's a nice long wave trough there. And then you can see our main player for the severe weather on Monday and into Tuesday. You can see this large trough. It'll move southwestward and eject over Texas. You'll see in a second. That's how it looks at 2Z. You can see it really start to eject at 12Z, and you can see a huge belt of flow really starting to kind of get out over Texas there. And this is going to be our main player for that event. We can take a sounding here, 12Z, and we already see there's an EML at around 700 millibars that you can see here. And you also have already a very large hodograph, and along with that, you already have elevated instability, almost 750 joules per kilogram right here. Along with that, deep layer shear 50 knots already with ample low-level SRH and very steep mid-level lapse rates as well. Now let's go deep dive into today. Kind of give you your points for severe weather for today. We'll kind of go to 22Z. We'll kind of go across the Mid-Atlantic region. So we're expecting some isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms to form. Let me just scroll back on here. Looks like we're going to see initiation around 19Z, so that's going to be around 1 p.m. So that would be in about initiation would be in about an hour or so. So we're probably going to see a weather watch issuance being possible. As you can see here, looks like scattered convection forms in this area. Looks like you have a risk for maybe an isolated tornado. Up here further north, there's going to be a risk for severe weather too. The photographs don't get super jacked until about 23Z or so. And that's also when your thermodynamics become terrible. So I feel like the tornado risk for today is pretty weak, and I really do not expect too much to happen out of this, given that you really don't have the best LLJ timing. I mean, you have large photographs with very strong deep layer shear, which is going to give off your damaging wind potential, given that you have DCAP of 400 and ample low-level jet, along with good deep layer shear, which is going to be a nice damaging wind risk, but I'm not really too certain on the tornado risk. Hail is also going to be possible given steep lapse rates. Kind of scroll down across the Carolinas here. It was looking more likely that we're going to see isolated supercells to fire, but it looks less unlikely now. A couple isolated supercells cannot be ruled out across this area where large hail is possible given the huge hail growth layer and mixed layer keep up 1,000. Deep layer shear 40 knots will also help with this risk and the steep lapse rates. A tornado cannot be ruled out given decent 3 cape and SRH of around 100, but it's very unlikely given the very weird profile that we have right here. And the hodograph looking pretty trash. But as we progress throughout the night, we're expecting this to kind of move into portions of Connecticut, bring some damaging wind gusts, maybe some isolated large hail as well with it. Given a MU cape of 800 joules per kilogram and deep layer shear 56, 57 knots, or 59, sorry. Now next we have the WRAP model. I already have it pulled up at 15Z for the next day. You can see the hodograph map here. Very solid hodographs across the warm sector. We'll take a sounding on the WRAP here. Kind of just get a general idea. So this sounding shows an EML with lapse rates of around 7.9 Celsius per kilometer just above it. Good hodograph. EML starting to erode at this point with lapse rates of 6 Celsius per kilometer in the lowest levels. Big time cap still there, but it is starting to erode. Now if we go outside of the sector and just check out the general southern plains region, we can see here mixed layer cape values are already, our surface-based cape, sorry, mixed layer cape values are already 1,000 plus joules per kilogram across the warm sector. So if we kind of take a sounding, kind of within the highest area, you can see that. Now low-level lapse rates are currently kind of, you can see here, they're really starting to build in as we get to 18Z. They're starting to build in across the risk area pretty quickly. This sounding does not have great low-level lapse rates, but it has a very good hodograph there with SRH already of 200 joules per kilogram, or 200 meters per second, and we also have 31 knots of 1 kilometer or 0 1 kilometer shear, 47 of deep layer shear. That's only going to go up from there. 3 cape of 80, which is not terrible, and mixture cape of 1,500, which is not bad either. Now you can see here, lap streets are kind of getting in there. Here's kind of over Hondo, Texas area, where you had that big hailstorm happen last year, and we'll kind of see what sounding we get here. You can see here, this is a very good sounding prone to very large hail, given the very steep lap streets you have near the surface. I mean, you have a huge warm layer here, so your tornado potential is going to be low given the elevated storm mode with that, but deep layer shear, strong enough to support that too. If we go a little bit further to the east there, maybe more over San Antonio. Um, you can see here, you already have your lap streets already starting to mix out a bit. Large photograph. This is actually very similar to a sounding I got earlier. Maybe the same. Yeah, I think I got the same sounding earlier. Now let's go into the FV3 and kind of look at it. So here's as we get into Sunday. So your Monday we get a low pressure to develop. It rapidly starts to deepen. 12Z rapidly starts deepening. We get supercells to start firing at 15, 16, 17Z off the FV3, and they really start to get organized at 19Z or so. Not a bad photograph by any means. Let's just look at this side. But yeah, storm initiation is expected to happen probably, I don't know if it's going to be at 15Z. It'll probably be more like 17, 18Z. FV3 has an early initiation event with it being very messy overall. Still prone to significant tornado potential though. Later as we get these cells to form along the dry line there. FV3 doesn't model photographs correctly some of the time, so it's going to look a little bit wonky. As you can see here, we have a few major storms fire up. This is a little bit contaminated. I know. I actually took that in the updraft of a storm. Let me take it out and ahead, like right here. It's still probably going to be contaminated. Still contaminated, but it's not in the updraft anymore. But as you can see here, a very thin Cape profile up in the northern part of the wrist, but very, very, very large photographs that are being showcased with 350 SR-ish in the lowest kilometer. Steeper lap streets are starting to kind of become a thing too. Now, as we get along the dry line here, I feel like this is going to be the area where you're going to have the most substantial tornado risk, given the fact that you're probably going to have discrete supercells, and you're probably going to have more steeper thermodynamic profiles as well. FV3 kind of goes nuts with it being very messy here. Southwest Arkansas, very strong photograph, but not very much instability there. If you kind of take just south of the supercell here, it's probably going to be within the updraft of a bunch of other mini supercells and stuff, but very strong photographs and stuff that are really being showcased here. 0Z, I feel like your best tornado potential, if the FV3 was kind of a solution, would probably be this area, and this is probably your best very large hail potential too, because this is going to be your area where it's not as messy. And that's basically what the SBC is thinking too. Further north, you're going to have opportunities for tornadoes, but it's probably not going to be as clear cut, and probably going to be it's probably going to be a lot more messy up there. I feel like your better opportunities going to be further south, like the FV3 shows. And you can see here another pretty good photograph there. I mean, it's a little bit veer back veered, but not bad. And really April Empel S or H as well. Now, let's get into the NAM 3 kilometer. Bang. There's your trough ejecting across the risk area. 70 knots of flow. Pretty good. To kind of stop this at 21Z, we'll look at the low pressure system. Very strong. We're going to get some storms along the low pressure as well up here, which could amplify a risk of isolated severe weather, including damaging wind gusts and large hail, given the steeper lapse rates and deep layer shear being pretty strong. Now, do not trust the NAM 3 kilometer storm mode at all, or really anything with its reflectivity, as it's never good with reflectivity at all. As you can see here, we have a pretty good environment as we get pretty late into the day here. Storm initiation probably starts 16, 17, 18Z. We can kind of look at the NAM 3 kilometer here and kind of let's look at the ingredients. We have 60 plus dew points that are getting affected onshore here. Along with that, you have a lower level jet that's kind of transporting this of, wow, 60, 70 knots. Let me change colors on my pen here. Make it black for right now. 60, 70 plus knot LJ being transported as well. Mixed air cape of 1,000 plus. and along with ample SRH of 200, 300 as well. Um, First base crossovers are pretty good, especially as you get further out here. I feel like you're probably going to get dry line storms, but they're probably going to be a little bit less tornadic, probably more very large hail producers. If we take a sounding kind of in that Cape Plume there along the dry line, you can see here the sounding is a lot more not great for tornado potential. I mean, you have better lapse rates and stuff, so definitely could make up for the lack of that. Now looking a little bit further east, you can see here lapse rates aren't so steep in the low levels, but you have very steep mid-level lapse rates, and you have a very large photograph there with SRH of 400 and then pretty ample mixed layer cape as well. I think significant tornadoes are definitely a possibility given this. We might even see a moderate risk upgrade with this event potentially. We'll have to really wait and see what happens with it. Now, let's go to 21Z. We're going to take a box sounding here. We're going to take a large box sounding and kind of just dissect it. Okay, so a very large photograph, or not very large, but a large enough photograph to support tornadic activity. These winds are pretty veered until you get to the lowest a kilometer or so, right at the surface. They're not so veered. Lapse rates are pretty solid. Mixed area cape and instability overall solid. Good 3 cape, and overall shear is pretty good too. So not a bad sounding at all. Now, as we get towards 0Z, we're probably going to see a more stronger LLJ start to really get going. And yeah, that's exactly what the case is. 70 knot LLJ gets going. Now, your thermodynamics are a little bit displaced from the best kinematics as over just a little bit to the west, as you can see the winds kind of veer, but which could be a problem. Now let's go to look at the NAM. Here is the NAM. It's a little bit slower this run. So your 21Z, you really start to see this just kind of increase. You can see the photographs there from Cameron Nixon's photograph plot on Kolovich 2-phage. And we just took a sounding kind of near College Station, Texas, and as you can see here again, very large photographs being displaced. Don't mind the veer back veer there. That is just something the NAM model does very often. Ample amounts of 3 cape. Now, very saturated profile, so this would probably mean HP storm modes. Pretty good instability though. But yeah, given that, you're probably going to see HP storm modes. And then as you get further north across portions of Texas overnight, we'll probably see more dryline storms initiate. Took a sounding near Austin and another one near Dallas. The Dallas sounding is pretty solid for hail and wind if we get anything behind there. Again, solid for hail and wind. 2,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer cape is very good. But as we can kind of play this out here, we're probably going to see a significant tornado risk. We'll kind of look at the convection here as well, winter-wise. You can see here the convection is kind of out here at this point. Kind of take a sounding in Louisiana. Just kind of look at it. And this convection kind of washes out the warm sector in northern Mississippi, but not southern. And this convection will probably have tornadoes with it as well, given the fact that you have very strong 0 to 1 kilometer helicity as well. As we get to 12Z, we see the low-level jet really start to ramp up at 15Z as we get a wave to kind of amplify out of the Gulf and bring up very, very warm moisture. 15Z already will probably see a significant tornado threat being ongoing, given the fact that we have mixed layer cape values of already 1,000 plus joules per kilogram. Nearly 2,000. Here's a sounding from just a little bit east of Lake Charles, and yeah, you can definitely see the significant tornado potential being displaced. Very steep lapse rates, which will allow for some isolated very large hail if this solution does come true. Very large photograph, so with SRH of 400 and deep layer shear very strong, low level jet very strong, effective shear very strong, cloud layer shear very strong, BRN shear very strong. Really everything shear wise is strong, and instability wise, this is that combo that you do not want to see. Also, I forgot to mention that you probably will see a significant wind and hail risk with this event overnight, and then kind of into Mississippi, we'll see a significant wind and hail and tornado risk more or less. Now, if the NAM profiles do exist like this, we'll probably see strong to violent long tracking tornadoes, but we'll have to see if those profiles kind of keep existing, which at this point I think is likely, but we'll have to wait and see. Here are the photographs at 18Z, and these are deadly. Very strong photograph. You can just see here 2,800 surface space cape with mixed layer cape of 2,000 joules per kilogram, lapse rates of 7 plus Celsius per kilometer, 3 cape of over 100. This is just the classic Dixie death signal, I would say, for severe weather wise. It's classic significant Dixie system. You can just see the flow kind of get amplified there as another thing kind of amplifies it. You can see the low level jet. This gets very strong as we get to 20, as we get to 21Z here. Anything in the open warm sector will have the potential to produce an intense tornado given this. Photographs that literally go off your college due page screen. That's nice. Another thing to know to mention though is that there is potential for a cold core severe weather event to happen in southern Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, northern Arkansas with this event along the surface, along the mid-level cyclone there. You can see here the mid-level cyclone is probably located like what, like in here, or another secondary surface low kind of in there. Look at 850 millibar. You can see here the actual main surface low. There's a main surface low kind of right here, and then there's a secondary one right here. The main one will probably bring a cold core severe weather event to places in Kansas. Very steep lapse rates are going to be present across Dixie Alley given the EML from Mexico coming in. And Kansas is going to have a nice severe risk as well. We'll take a sounding kind of in that lapse rates plume in Kansas there. And as you can see here, pretty good cold core profile. I mean, your hail growth layer is pretty decent, not bad. Definitely going to be enough to produce isolated hail and probably isolated wind gusts as well. If we can get a little bit more SRH, you'll probably see a tornado threat. I mean, nonetheless, 203 cape will definitely provide you at least a brief tornado threat as well. Now let's move on to the RDPS. Very similar solution to all the other models, ejection-wise. Now, I don't know if the NAM is, but the NAM might be the only model that shows a nice cold core event. Oh, no, it's not. Yep, so it looks like that cold core event's going to be locked in. We'll probably see a marginal with that, but that's not going to be your main concern. Your main concern is going to be down in the dumps of Dixie Alley. Not the dumps, but down in Dixie Alley, where you see a significant severe weather risk with very large photographs, again, off the RDPS with decent lapse rates as well. Right now, storm mode is a bit uncertain. I do think it'll probably be a QLCS mode mainly, but you probably will see a few open warm sector or embedded discrete supercells along with it. RDPS does not have as strong of an LOJ as some of the other models do. 21Z gets stronger though. At 0Z gets pretty strong too. GFS wise, we'll kind of look at the surface cyclones, try to look at its path here. You can see here there's the Texas day, it deepens, and it starts to weaken, and that new surface low forms, and we start to see pressure falls again. Then the next day could bring severe weather across the Carolinas into Georgia as well. Now let's look at that next day. On Wednesday. Wednesday could be a severe weather day across anywhere from maybe the Ohio Valley, but mainly North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama too. Kind of looking at this sets me to believe a decent tornado risk in the Carolinas, and that is true. Very, very good photograph there. Low-level instability is pretty trash, but overall the instability isn't terrible. Let's look at your surface. Let's go zoom in and look at your I don't think the GFS. I don't think the GFS on pivotal weather is mixed layers. We'll have to look at service-based cape. But kind of zoom in here. Look at this. And yeah, you have decent instability values kind of in here. Looks like you have instability all the way into the Appalachian Mountains over there. And yeah, that'll give you a nice severe threat too if that happened. SBC's been has had to keep expanding their risk for this day because it keeps getting a bit bigger and bigger. Definitely not going to add a 30% for this day right now, the day 4, given kind of everything. Here's a sounding out of central North Carolina. You can see again, deep layer shear is rather weak with this, but it's enough to produce scattered severe thunderstorms, and looks like your main 500 millibar belt is going to be across Georgia. Probably going to be, yeah, that looks like it's going to be your main risk there. We can kind of look to see if we have any dry air punching in, and yeah, we do across Georgia, so there might be a decent hail threat given the dry air punching in as well. UK Met again has a very similar solution to pretty much every single model. 500 millbar, it's a little bit stronger though. Now let's look at the severe risk again for kind of Dixie out or for the southeast region on Wednesday. And again, it looks like there's going to be a decent severe risk. Here's a sounding across portions of Florida, and as you can see, it's not terrible. It's like a boxing across Florida, Georgia there, and again, not bad. Deep layer shear 40 knots, D cape of 500 joules per kilogram, mixed cape of 1,000 joules per kilogram. Not a terrible sounding, and it'll definitely give you a threat for isolated tornadoes and damaging wind gusts as well. Further north, or near the surface cyclone, UK Met has a nice tornado threat there. Let's see, cold core. Let's see if the low is closed. That's an open wave, I'm pretty sure. Whoops, did not mean to do that. No, it's kind of closed, but we have a nice severe threat along that low pressure area as well. And once we get to 0-0, we'll probably see this kind of extend into the Carolinas as surface winds kind of deepen a bit. And yeah, that's the case. I mean, the capping inversion does increase though. Portions of Alabama will probably see severe weather from the 12 to 18Z time frame. As you can see, the low pressure station in Illinois, we have the main region in here with the dew points there. And you can see your kind of precipitation overall is kind of in that area. We'll quickly go over your front map and then we'll end it here. Severe weather expected early morning maybe. Definitely here. Definitely at this point as well. And then maybe Thursday as well. We'll have to wait and see on that. Current rain amounts expected to be very significant across the Ohio Valley as well. That will do it for this one. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll see y'all in the next one.